Welcome to Chalk Talk,
Chalk Talk,
Leadership Uncovered, where we dive into the minds that are shaping the future of education.
The future of education.
For us, it's really about the opportunity of every individual student. As long as it's personal, as long as it relates to them, their opportunity, their goals, that's the only thing that matters.
Well, welcome to Chalk Talk, Episode 2. I'm your host, Matthew the Body Kemmetmueller, and I'm excited to bring my good friend, one of the first executive directors we ever worked with in the education space, Jon.
Good to see you.
Thank you. So Jon is executive director, founder, visionary, man who created the concept of St. Croix Prep and brought it to fruition. And St. Croix Prep has grown since 2004, so we're 20 years in.
20 years in.
20 years in. And in those 20 years, it's become really renowned across the state as one of the most academically rigorous schools. And it's something you should be really proud of. So today we want to talk to you kind of about what crafted this journey, what brought you to where you are now, and what's the vision for where St. Croix Prep is going?
How did this start? I usually say it's a bad cup of coffee, and in some ways that's true, but I was in transition from, I quit the software sales space. I was a VP of sales for, probably 15 years, and then kind of took a hiatus. And in the midst of it, I saw my kids kind of struggle in school for different reasons. And one was really bored, and one wasn't challenged. And the other really had some remediation issues. She wasn't learning how to read. And so it's like, well, how does it work? How does this happen? I'd say it's a bad cup of coffee because there are a group of people that wanted to start St. Croix Prep, and they asked me if I wanted to be involved. It was over a cup of coffee. And I said no repeatedly. And eventually I said, yes, I would. And so I said I'd get it off the ground and I'd do it for 1 year. 20 years later, here we are, and that's kind of how it started. But really was looking for a place where we attended to each kid's needs, we challenged them, we gave them an opportunity. That's what the school is based on, the academics, character, and leadership.
Well, I guess the thing that's kind of unique to me when you're telling me that story is that I think when I talk to other administrators, like in other schools, like if I talk to the superintendent at XYZ school district, it's usually people who kind of followed this passion, this desire to be involved in education, and they started out as teachers, and that slowly kind of evolved into a leadership role within education. So you came from a grown-up job, like you left corporate America, you left this software sales. How did that kind of craft how we brought St. Croix Prep to fruition?
Oh, interesting question. So my background is quite a bit different. So a funny story behind that was when I was growing up, I told my parents that I would never be involved in at least 2 or 3 professions. One was sales, and the other was education. Okay. And so I had probably spent 40 years of my life involved in those. The other was probably something I didn't want to be involved in, but I did go to seminary and got some training in divinity and some of those things. So I think what happens is I had some transferable skills that I just really wanted to that have migrated throughout my career. And when it came to kids, it was like, oh, I can actually do this. I can actually build an environment where kids can learn. I'm comfortable with high growth industries. So the technology space, when I was involved in that, was really about growing teams, being involved with teams, and experiencing growth that was 100% a year for 5 to 7 years in a row. So I was really comfortable with that, and I said, well, let's do it for schools. Let's do it for education. Let's see if we can build a school and make a difference in kids' lives. So that's really how that came into being. So utilizing the skills of people and putting them on a path and building teams.
And I think that's probably true with a lot of things, is like being able to have the vision, be able to communicate with people and share that kind of from the top down. It's a powerful skill set.
Yeah, I think it's, well, for me, I'm really comfortable in not knowing things. And so if I don't know something, then I want somebody else to be able to do that. And so I look for people that actually have the skills in areas that I'm not comfortable with. I trust them, and then say, just help me help you by letting me remove obstacles and hurdles And so really that's what I like to do. So I can say I'm surrounded by a bunch of people that know a lot more about a lot of things than I do.
Well, one of the things that kind of the tagline of St. Croix Prep is that it's a school kind of rooted in classic education. And a lot of the times when I talk to my friends, we'll talk about different schools that we work with. Of course, this one has a special place in my heart.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
St. Croix Prep, it's a preparatory high school,
Right.
that focuses on classic education. And a lot of times my friends will say, like, what does that mean?
Yep.
And I don't know that I can explain exactly what a classic education rooted school is. So could you give me a clear definition?
A clear one. There's growing debate on that, and I'll say for us, it's we do Latin instruction. So kids start with Latin and logic in the 5th grade. We do read classical literature, so the kids will read Beowulf, the Odyssey, Dante's Inferno. We have seminars where kids learn how to discuss things civilly and in a polite manner. But for us, it's probably going to be the trivium, and I'll try to explain this, but we would say no matter what the subject matter is, there's going to be 3 stages of learning. There's going to be a grammar stage, a logic stage, and a rhetoric stage. That grammar stage is just the basic knowledge. What are the facts related to this? So that could be continents and oceans, it could be rivers, it could be ancient Greece, ancient Rome. And so we'll build that fact base for every particular subject matter, K4. Then what happens is we still have this content, but when kids get to be middle schoolers, they act differently and they ask different questions, but they're just trying to understand this information. They're trying to make sense of it. So that's really that logic stage. And then when you get to the final stage of rhetoric, that's really when you could have communication about that particular piece of information or that discipline. So for us, it's knowing the building blocks are that knowledge, the understanding, and then the communication, so the grammar, logic, rhetoric. So no matter what the discipline is, whether it's a sport, whether it's basketball, whether it's sales, whether it's photography, whether it's architecture, you have to go through those stages in order to be a critical thinker about that discipline. So for us, it's really about being aware of those building blocks and then treating each subject matter that way. So when they get to the end of that K-12 experience, they have that foundation so they can go on for additional learning.
That's awesome. That's interesting. So I guess taking root from like the Latin language and learning all this stuff, that this is obviously, these practices have been around forever and ever and ever. How do you feel like focusing on logic and rhetoric, and how is that relevant in today's world? How is that helping kids go out in 2024 and be good citizens and effective learners?
Yeah, so I think 20 years, so the society has changed quite a bit in 20 years. So I think what happens now is when kids interact with society now, they just get snippets of information. It's sound bites. So now it's, with social media and all of those things. So what we're trying to build in the students is an awareness that behind that sound bite, there's a lot of depth and there's a lot of information. And in order for you to interact with it, you really have to go through that beginning stage and understand what's the knowledge behind it, what's the interaction behind it, and then can you effectively communicate about whatever that topic is. Mm-hmm. So when you see even a news story, a Twitter feed, X feed, whatever it is these days, you're getting just the tip of the iceberg. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to create the curiosity to say, what's behind that? What's underneath that? And there's got to be more to that. And so I think that's what we're trying to do. And then what they can do is they can be involved in the citizenship in their local community, in their people environment. And so that's what we're trying to do.
Well, I guess you kind of were mentioning that each month you kind of will tackle one of those character traits.
Yep.
Are there any other specific initiatives focused on leadership with these kids? Because I think that's something that I'm so focused on leadership. That's what I love about these Chalk Talks, is like not just learning kind of what you're doing, but what is crafting. Why are we trying to lead our school, our people, our employees, our students, our families this way? Are there any initiatives specifically that you can think of, like within St. Croix Prep, that's helping craft good leadership within kids?
Yeah, so we actually have a leadership class that we offer in our upper school. And that really, I think, is I mean, how do you define leadership? So I think for us, we're trying to expand the vision of leadership, because sometimes people say, well, is he a leader? Well, that means he's visible. He's the one on stage. He's that person. So that really starts with, in the class, is identifying a person's strengths, who they are, what they like, who they want to be. And then do they understand other people, the people that they are intending to lead, and their passions and their understanding. So the leadership can be thought leadership, it can be academics, it could be performance, it could be in music, it could be in athletics, it could be in their civic duty, in their service to their community. So we're trying to expand it so they understand that their leadership skills are more than what might be perceived by society, but it's something that dwells within them, and it's something they can do.
So clearly, like 20 years, there's a lot of history.
Yes.
There's a lot of history with you. Is there anything that you can reflect on, any like success stories that hit you, where you were like, we made it.
Yeah.
We did it. We got one.
Yeah.
Any success stories that really stand out?
Yeah, I'll do it, one from a community perspective and one from a student perspective.
Okay.
So we started at a K7, 200 kids. We were in a kind of a strip mall, an old post office grocery store. And from K7, 200 students, we're now K12 with 1,200 students and about 1,000 on the wait list. All the transitions involved temporary spaces that weren't fully built out, but now we reside on a 60-acre campus, 135,000 square feet. We have trails that go through our property. We have full athletic facilities and art facilities. So really from the success of that, and the reason I bring that up is when you said the dream being accomplished, I remember when we moved in and somebody said, what's it like to have your dreams come true? And it's like, we didn't dream this, but this evolved from the passion of so many people.
Okay.
And so now that's a dream that's accomplished. Student success, there's so many of them. I think the one that always brings a smile to my face is a student that graduated 2017. She was probably not from the most advantaged family. The college dreams were not on her horizon, and she was more of a homebody and really never really got outside of Minnesota. We convinced her and did some legwork for her, so she got a full ride scholarship at Davidson College in North Carolina.
Wow.
So that was probably $250,000 to $300,000. But the thing that we had to do is we had to convince her to get on a plane, to go visit, to accept this, and to see where she was going to go to school. That took a lot of convincing with her mom, and coordination of travel personnel to meet her in Atlanta, to bring her to Charlotte. She graduated in 4 years. She spent a semester in Japan. She's traveled the world, and now she has a job where she travels around the country. And we just say, it's about an opportunity.
Yeah.
Providing that for kids. So that's what we like to do.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I think sometimes it is really just getting that opportunity, that first chance.
Right.
Like it's never, for us, we always said it's like, it's not proving that you can do something 1,000 times, you just got to do it once.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to do that one thing and being able to take that first step and being able to step out of your comfort zone and get on a plane and go check out a whole nother state. Terrifying when you're 17. Right. Absolutely terrifying.
Absolutely.
And now she's all over the world.
She's all over the world. Exactly. And not afraid of anything. So, and for us also, it's really about the opportunity of every individual student. So we would say that as long as it's personal, as long as it relates to them, their opportunity, their goals, that's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter. You don't compare it to somebody else. It's about you and where you want to go.
So one thing I like about coming here, because we do the sports photos, so like
you see it all. You see it all.
I see them time and time again. And one thing that I think is unique about a school like St. Croix Prep or any of the smaller programs compared to like the very, very large ones,
correct,
is I think in a lot of the larger schools you kind of end up getting stuck also just being able to be a one sport athlete because
correct,
it's so competitive. It's so many people involved in this and trying to get their little niche in the school. And what I kind of like about the kids that we get to see here is like the guys that are playing fall soccer are also doing track in the spring, are also playing basketball. And we get to see a lot of athletes that get to, I think, try and be a part of different teams
Right.
where you wouldn't necessarily get that opportunity just because it's a numbers game too at some point.
Correct. Exactly. So that's the thing that's nice. So they can play football. They can be in the jazz band. They can be in choir.
Yeah.
And then they can run track. And so they have that opportunity. And then what is nice, sometimes they can be leaders in that team. So they can be a captain. And so I think what happens in an environment like this is nobody gets lost. And so even maybe it's because of the change of the dynamics in athletics, but we have students that have played Division I, Division II, Division III athletics.
Looking down the road for St. Croix Prep, what are your goals? What are your plans? Like if you could look into the future 5 years, 10 years, what do you think is the biggest things we're putting the flag in the sand for? What are we working towards?
Yeah, good question. In some ways, 20 years has gone by in a blink of an eye, and it seems like there's still a lot of work to do. I'd say the thing that we're trying to do is to ensure that the mission is adhered to. So we do things for a reason. We don't say we're the best school, but we're just a school that does what it's focused on. So really adherence to that mission is really, really important to us. When it gets to mission-driven organizations, we'll say that we won't do good things so we can do better things. Because if there are better things to do with our mission, that's what we want to focus on. So I think eventually the school has to decide what its role is in the larger educational system. So with 1,000 on the wait list, is it time to grow? Is it our service to the community to grow? Is it our service to provide these opportunities to those that might not have it? So I think that's going to be the larger discussion in the upcoming years.
Gotcha. That's awesome.
So that means you can take more pictures.
So we can have more pictures here. Well, I know you played some college sports and high school athletics, and we talked about all the things that St. Croix Prep is doing with athletics here. My question to you is, how do you think being involved in athletics personally at a high school and a collegiate level, how does that influence and impact your leadership for this school and kind of where we're pushing it? And then also subsequently, how do you think the kids that are currently enrolled in athletics, how do you think that's impacting their experience in their lives?
Yeah. Glory days, right? Yes. So high school, college, yes. So I competed in high school and in college in multiple sports and was a captain of those sports. And I think what that does is, kind of our tagline is prep for life here. So what we do is school and athletics, but the results are it prepares a kid for life. And I think the athletic world really mirrors that quite well. So you think of teammates, you think of sharing, you think of commitment, you think of mental fatigue, physical fatigue, just the experiences of winning, of losing, of sportsmanship, of injury, of all of those things. I think those things really kind of form that character and leadership development. And that's some of the things we see in the classroom. So what happens is that combination of an academically rigorous environment along with the competitive environment of athletics and arts, I think that's the perfect combination so that when somebody leaves, it's like, oh yeah, I've seen this before. Is it in the classroom or is it is it on the basketball court? Is it in the track environment? We think it's irreplaceable. At least I do anyway. So I think that's what our kids find too. And then I think just because of the size of our school and the opportunity for the kids to participate, that opportunity is given to every student that walks through the door. So I think that's a benefit we have as opposed to being this really large organization.
I guess we got one last question for you, Jon, and this might be, I think this would be one that I would struggle with, but as you founded this school and as we watch it grow, what do you envision the legacy of this school to be? And how do you ensure that this legacy continues to evolve? Because what the goals were of St. Croix Prep 20 years ago there has to have been some evolution to that as it's grown to what it is now and just as times change. So how are you hoping to shape the legacy of this school?
Yeah. So I think a couple things. Really are working on a succession plan. So from a leadership perspective. So I kind of view that as being a coach. So how do we ensure that leadership stays in place, that they understand really the tenets of the school, that they're committed to that? And I think That's a key piece of that. So I think really what it is internally developing just capacity. Do people have the capacity to be future leaders? Are they developing team members so that they can assume additional responsibilities? And then really it's about kind of adhering to, just some of the principles of growth and how you run an organization. So one of the things we also aren't afraid to do is we aren't afraid to break things. So sometimes when you get to a place where everything's stable, are you continuing to do the best things? And do you need to readjust? I think when all's said and done, the legacy will be with the students. And do they graduate? Do they find their passion? Are they successful in their adventures that mean the most to them? So that would be the legacy. It wouldn't be about so much the institution, but it's the byproduct. It's the kids and their family.
That's awesome. So I need to we have a little game here we like to call, we call them our Chemi queries. We got a big old stack of cards.
What do we?
You're gonna pull one out, whichever one you get, go ahead and read that. Go ahead and answer that
I don't
question
know if
for
I
me.
like. You look at that. Oh, how would you lead a team on Mars if you were given the chance? Okay. Okay, so this one fits me perfectly because it's really like how I started the school. How would I lead a school when I've never led a school?
Okay.
Okay, so I'd find people that were experts in getting to Mars. Those people that could understand what's the equipment that we need to get there.
Yeah.
Who are the scientists behind it? Who are the network engineers? What is the equipment that I need to get there? And when I get there, what are the things I need to survive? So I know absolutely nothing about any of this, but I would be perfectly qualified to do it.
I love it.
So,
well, I want to thank you so much for taking time to talk to me, John. I really enjoyed this conversation. I learned a lot actually I didn't know about you and kind of some of the beginning stories of this.
Yeah.
You've done such amazing things here, and I know that this is obviously a passion project. I know bringing your children through this school,
Right.
being a part of the leadership team and creating something that's nationally renowned for its academic rigor, something you gotta be so proud of. And we are so glad to be a part of it and help you guys out. And just want to thank you again for hanging out with me today.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Sir. Good to see you.